Leptospirosis.
Yeah, zoonoses, great word, isn't it?
Isn't it a
All
great
those
word?
Z
But
words,
I'd love to
lovely.
know what it meant.
Yeah, so basically it's diseases that humans can contract off animals, and so there's a number of them, and they're quite pertinent in the rural sector, as you can imagine. So I guess we're not going to get through all of them. This is just a list a mile long, but we can maybe touch on some of the very important ones. And I guess right at the top of the list, in this kind of OSH regulated world we live in, or country we live in at the moment, would be leptospirosis, because it's exceptionally prominent and well recognised within the dairy industry. And the reason for that is that it's a bacterial disease, and the bug that causes it is transferred in urine, and so especially the in the pits of the old-fashioned herringbone sheds, if there's still some functional, and being exposed to urine splashes from even the big rotaries, it's obviously a high risk scenario potentially for staff working in the milking shed. The bug actually gets through mucous membranes, so the moist membranes of the body. Eyes are particularly problematic, through the mouth, and as you can imagine, it's not a big leap of faith to imagine that when you've got cows urinating on the platform, that we're going to get urine splashes. So it's particularly important to bear that in mind when we're talking about protecting ourselves from contracting this disease. It's a terrible problem. It's unlikely to result in death, but it makes people very, very sick.
But they feel as though they're dying.
Exactly. It's a very, very serious condition. They're febrile and really excessive flu symptoms, can't get out of bed, muscle aches, and that can last for days to weeks. Particularly important is being on top of things in relation to communicating with your veterinarian in regards to making sure that the vaccination status is up to scratch with the cows in particular. So we know that fully vaccinated and immunised cows shed organisms at a much reduced rate, so you're much less likely to be exposed from to the bug, to the bacteria, in a herd that's well vaccinated and has a good preventative leptospirosis plan in place. So it's something to be particularly noteworthy of, and it's probably one of the biggies. In recent times, in fact, it's been shown that sheep have been a major transmittance in relation to workers at freezing works and abattoirs. And so in the past we thought sheep were just a dead end for this disease, but it's becoming well recognised that actually in the processing of sheep meat, it renders abattoir workers at risk. So there's a lot more work being done in that regard as well.
Toxoplasmosis has got some pretty nasty side effects.
Yeah, toxo's a biggie, and a lot of people that are women that are watching that have been pregnant, they may recall that they've been tested for this. Immunity's lifelong, but the problem comes particularly if you're exposed to the parasite. It's a little single cellular parasite. If you're exposed to this in pregnancy, it can infect the placenta, and it can actually result in loss of a pregnancy. So it's particularly worrisome and noteworthy when it comes to women and that are watching. So it's a tricky little thing. There's two real ways of transmitting it. One is the primary host is the cat, and so when there's chance of getting contaminated cat feces and then inadvertently having those cysts from the cat feces transferred to food or mouth, that's a particular problem. So cleaning up kids' toys in a sand pit or playground, or I guess working in the hay shed and things where cats are prone to do their business, that's a high risk situation. But perhaps probably more recognisable is in handling raw meat, and so we can get cysts transferred through the carcasses of affected animals, so sheep meat, cow meat. When this raw meat's being handled, it's possible that cysts are transferred from the meat onto the hands and there into the mouth, and that's how infection can be maintained. So pretty much the way the parasite's transmitted is typically a cat will eat an infected carcass, and the cyst will go to the cat, and then the adult parasite will reproduce within the cat and shed thousands and thousands of spores. But we can get infected through infected meat as well as through cat poos. So, Oof, scabby mouth. So scabby mouth, most sheep farmers will know about. It's a particularly problematic disease when it comes to lambs. Can put them off their tucker pretty quick when we get horrible scabby infected lesions around the mouth. It's a viral infection, and typically it's transmitted when that virus gets into breaks in the skin. So for instance, lambs, particularly if there's a lot of thistles or gorse around that they're nibbling on, that's how they damage their face and lips, and that's where the bug gets, where the virus gets into the skin. It's a very, very resistant virus. It can stay viable for years and years in the environment, decades in fact, and so it's very, very easy in a contaminated environment to get infected. The typical scenario is a little blister on the finger where you've had a little thistle lesion or something that's been contaminated with the virus. But if you've got open wounds, be particularly noteworthy that you need to be avoiding high-risk situations or high-risk environments. There's been some horrible cases. For instance, I remember seeing a picture of a man that fell from a power line and got badly burnt from electrocution and fell into a paddock that was very muddy and contaminated with orf virus, and he had just horrendous lesions all over his face. So any open wounds, you're going to be very, very prone to developing orf. So I think not only handling affected animals in this sense, but contaminated parts of the farm. If you know you've got scabby mouth on the property, dealing with thistles and things, making sure you're not exposed to that sort of environment with lots of open wounds, and wearing the appropriate protection is going to see you well.
Nick, thank you very much indeed.